we are going to be talking about Project 2029. What is Project 2029? It's something that we've made up. And it is what us leftists would do if we wanted to plan for a restructuring of the American society in our image. So I have created this tier list. This is not going to be all-encompassing, by the way. There's definitely things that are going to be left from here just because we only have so many hours in the day. But if there's anything that we're missing here, make sure to leave it in the comments and we will address it next episode. Or send your reasoning to leftwingpod@gmail.com and you might be our reader mailbag question next week. Anyway, let's get to this tier list. All right, so here we're just going to go one by one here. And so I have our categories. Our top one, S tier, headline policies. Not just the ones we must have, but the ones that should be leading the charge. If you were to look at Project 2025, mass deportation would be one of them, right? A list, other must-have. Policies that absolutely must be included. They just might not be the headliners. B list, borderline must-haves. Things that we really, 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 really want and should probably include, but if push came to shove, they'd be underneath these. C's, nice to have. Things that we definitely want in them, but we're not going to die on the hill of. D, not worth focusing on. Kind of take it or leave it. F, we need to actively jettison this. I don't think we're going to have any F tiers on here, but I wanted to put that in there either way because I think we can continue developing this list over the course of the next, infinity because it's never actually going to happen. Anyway, first one on the list, we have term limits for Supreme Court justices. And I will also lump Congress in here as well. Just congressional term limits in general for administrative state. What do you guys think? I think that this is a pretty politically viable one and generally useful, but not the most useful. So that's what I think. But let me hear it from you, TJ.
All right. So I was going to say this is an S tier, like obvious when you said the Supreme Court. Like the Supreme Court, there's no fucking reason for the Supreme Court to be a lifetime appointment. It's hilarious whenever when people try to defend this and they say, well, it needs to be a lifetime appointment so politics aren't involved. Like, go to hell. Like, come on. Why? This is like, it's a political, they're appointed by politicians. Yep. They're confirmed by politicians. It's a political seat. However, I don't agree with Congress being term limited. I don't see a need for that. And I don't think it would solve any problems. Like for the Supreme Court, if you gave a Supreme Court justice 15 years, like boom, you're on the court, 15 years, you're up, then it's good. You're done. That doesn't really have any conflicts there. But for Congress, I don't think the fact that congressmen can serve for as many times they're elected is really the issue. I think that it's the donors that get them involved that actually cause them to be, bad or whatever. So if they're termed out, they'll be replaced by another one funded by the same donors. It won't change anything. So if it's for the Supreme Court term limits, I'm all in. Congressional, I don't really care. Age limit, yes. Term, no. What do you think, Weiser?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would maybe put it A tier, but I mean, there's other things that play, like life. If it's a lifetime appointment, but the court is 24 members, it's a little different in terms of the variety of people filling positions, the type of people they are. That would change a lot of things. Like there's like things that can be negotiated in terms of how the Supreme Court can be effective or disaffective. Like if it's term limits, but it's still Trump appointed 9 of them.
Let's say for the sake of making this a little simpler, we are just talking about, and we're going to do this for a couple other topics. We're not going to say specific policy, but just Supreme Court reform. How about that? Whether it be term limits, what choose your poison as to how you want to get there, but some sort of reform of the Supreme
I would definitely put that
necessary
for Supreme
100%
Court,
necessary. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna keep it there. I feel like it might move down because I think there's going to be other ones that we want here, but I'm going to keep it there for now. So next one, ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting to me is probably one of the most important possible things that we could possibly have because without it, third parties are always going to be unviable. However, I don't know if it's sexy enough to be a headline policy. We'll start with you on this one, Wiseacre. What do you think?
Well, obviously, we can't do that unless we get rid of the Electoral College, which would take precedent over ranked choice voting. Because if there's still the Electoral College, ranked choice voting just becomes a way of picking the 2 candidates, which that's fine. You're still only going to have 2 candidates in the end because of the way Electoral College works. Because when you have too many candidates, then you don't get enough electoral votes, which means then it goes to the House and they get to decide on who's president. And that all depends on the coalition of people in Congress. And that's not a great way to pick a president. So I would say ranked choice is fine, but I think a lot of people misunderstand how it would be implemented within the current system that we are forced into anyway, because it's constitutional. So I always like to make that clear, because we're like, well, if we rank choice, we have a lot of different parties running. I'm like, yes, it's true. But you have to play that out in how it works out throughout. The reason that third parties don't succeed is because they don't build coalitions. They just run for president. That's not the way you can win. You have to win local elections and state elections, and then in federal elections. And then you have a coalition by which, if there's multiple parties, again, taken out of the hands of the voters and given to the hands of Congress, which is not great. So I would say it's not S tier, it's A or B tier, but I think there's other things that would have to take precedence before that.
What do you think, TJ?
I would put it in S because, Weisaker's correct that you, like, the Electoral College kind of stymie that. But I think that it can be implemented on the state level, like Alaska does ranked choice voting and everything. And so if we have it, like, we found some way that get it spread across the country, that would actually build the third parties. Like you said, like Weisaker's, like, the third parties don't have any massive client base is the wrong word, voting base, obviously a voting base.
It would help states for sure. It would not help in the federal level.
Yeah. So I'm all on board with that, because it could it is necessary, like, for getting Congress or mayors and city councils and stuff, and getting third parties representation there. I don't see how that. I mean, I guess it could hurt the country, because you've seen the electorate, right? But I think that it would be good. I put it at the S. What about you, John?
The problem was, like, how do you convince states to do it if it's not a federal mandate? And it wouldn't, like, that's what's difficult about the United States, is, like, you want states to be able to have power over how they want to elect people. So if it becomes a mandate, I'm like, well, then just go for all of it.
I agree with Weisaker that it would not affect the presidency that much, but I do think, like, if you mandated federally ranked choice voting, it would have massive impacts on Congress and how parties are developed in general. And I would also like to get rid of the Electoral College, but I didn't think of that to put it on this list, so it's just not included. But I'm going to put it in A because I agree that it's super important with TJ. But I also don't think it's sexy enough to be a headline. This is going to drive people to go out and support our project. But I do think it is a must-have in terms of accomplishing all of these goals in the long term. And I have the mouse, so I get to make these decisions. The next one. Codifying abortion rights. I think that's an S tier policy. I think it's probably top S tier policy because it will mobilize. We've seen it mobilize, and it's also very impactful. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I do. I just, I mean, once again, we're constrained by our current system and what we can and can't do here. That they're not going to.
Again, TJ, I don't worry about what we can and cannot do. This is our wish list project.
Yeah.
This is like starting from the ground. Like, this is what we're going after, right?
Yeah. So, all right, contingent upon this being possible, what the Democrats would need to do with all of this is just grow a fucking spine. Okay. Actually, you know what? Maybe it would be, because for those of you wondering what we're talking about, in order for them to actually codify abortion into law, they got to pass a bill through Congress and make it a law. Now, going through Congress, the Democrats can do that, or going through the House of Representatives, they can do that. The House control flips back and forth all the time. The Senate is where it becomes a problem, because in order to vote, a bill only needs 51 votes in the Senate to become a law. It only needs 51. But in order for that vote to take place, it needs 60 votes
it's got to overcome the filibuster.
Yes, it's got to overcome the filibuster, and then it's okay. Now that we have 60 votes, we can actually take this vote. So it doesn't matter if you have 51 supporting it, 55 supporting it. If you can't get that 60 to say, okay, let's vote on it, it will never happen.
And there's always going to be Republicans that will invoke it, that will always have to make it go to that. That's what they do every time.
What do you
make it? They do the filibuster every time.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unless it's some things that you can do with the
budgets and shit. Yeah.
So
anyway.
for the sake of argument here, guys, we are assuming
No,
that the next 4 years plays out
We're
like
lost in the weeds.
the last 4 years of the Bush presidency on steroids, where there's economic collapse right at the end. There is a mandate to rule with a supermajority.
So
pass whatever.
Well, what I was going with that is the reason that I'm like maybe foolishly optimistic here is that Trump and the Republicans the whole argument against the filibuster, against getting rid of the filibuster is that, well, if we do it, can you imagine what the Republicans are going to do when they take power? We've seen it. Okay. We've seen it. And by the way, if you don't think that they're going to try to overcome the filibuster to make a national abortion ban, you have another thing coming. They are going to absolutely try that. So yes, do it. Like the Republicans have shown they're not afraid to do it already. Go ahead, get rid of the filibuster, or presuming you ever win the Senate again, and then we can go through that. So yeah, I think that would be absolute top of the list because it's got to happen. What do you think, Weizsäcker?
I'm going to be annoying and nuanced, but I think it is. I think it is an S tier, but we have to really define. Like we just think about abortion and we keep it this huge. Like, at what point is it? Is it through the entire? Because here's the thing: we are not a monolith. Republicans aren't really a monolith, but they are, because of their background, they vote as a monolith. I wish Democrats did that, but a democracy is allowing people to be who they are and to express their voice. And that's also annoying because people are very, very varied in their opinions. So like there are plenty of people on the left who are for a woman's right to choose. But when you start getting specific about when it's okay or not okay, you have people who are like, it's always okay whenever, it doesn't matter. Then you have people who are like, well, it's only up and okay until a point, or it's only okay if it's about danger. Like that's what gets really difficult in the weeds in terms of it's S tier, yes, but I think you have to have parameters to get a lot of people, because when you're general, that's cool, but you can't pass laws generally. You have to be a little bit specific, because when you're general, you get Donald Trump and you get the fucking shit that they're doing because we don't conceive of the way people could abuse it. So I think it's S tier, but it also has to be really, really written in a way that makes sure that people feel that they are comfortable with the parameters of it, because not everyone's on the same page on that. They just aren't.
Well, Weizsäcker, next time we have a full segment on abortion rights, we will have that nuanced discussion with you. But we got to move on, so we're keeping it in S tier. So 4-day work week is next. I put this in the nice to have. I think it is something that can get a lot of popular support. I think there's a lot of evidence that it is very strong, like for so many different reasons. It would improve so many people's lives. But I think it is also not really a must-have. So that's where I would put it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, low. Because you have different industries that 4-day work week isn't necessarily possible. Like farming.
Yeah, we're talking when we talk about 4-day work week, we're talking about corporate America. The people who are currently on a 5-day 9-to-5 schedule are now on a 4-day 9-to-5 schedule.
I think that's fine. It's not sexy, and I think a lot of people who are in business will be really, really, really resistant to it. But
they will. It's that's not the trend of the country, unfortunately. The trend of the country is going backward on worker rights. Like how many
we need
states
to have children working now?
Yes, how many states these last couple of years have like gone, yeah, we want child labor back. We think it's good. I remember arguing with someone I went to college with about this, and they're saying stuff like, well, what's wrong with teaching kids a work ethic? It's like, they don't give a shit about your kids' work ethic. They're trying to exploit them for cheap labor. Like they made some law in Ohio, I think, that or Iowa, that kids could work demolition jobs till 10 o'clock at night on school days. And it's like, yeah, it's dark, but I agree it's in the nice to have category because unfortunately, I would have a few years ago, I would have guessed that this would have got a lot of traction. But after seeing like Elon Musk and Trump just openly just writing or in word and like in writing saying, yeah, work from home, fuck them. That's ridiculous.
They said it's immoral. Immoral. How is that possible?
Yes. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like you would imagine that would be political poison to tell people, nope, this very convenient thing that makes sense and that, your job's going along just fine. Your company hasn't lost any money.
Productivity is the same.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. Yeah, we're getting rid of that. Would be a revolt. But nope, at least half the country is like, yeah, that really sucks. We need to get rid of it. So I put it on the nice to have. I think it actually, amazingly enough, have a hard time passing, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's where I would keep it right now. The one point I would disagree with you guys on is I think it's much more feasible in a much shorter timeline because we are going to start to see other countries do it. I bet you in the next 10 years there will be one country that creates a 4-day work week, and it's going to work according to all of the evidence that we have. And when it does work and when it does serve business interests, you're going to see more popular support for it. We might be one of the last countries to adopt it, but I do think that the inevitable march of progress will just make it a necessary thing for us to get someday. So it should be part of the project. But I agree with you. We don't have the political will for it. There's bigger fish to fry.
John, when has other countries being successful in doing something led to us doing? What are you talking about? Like
countries are doing it all the time.
We would have universal health care if we give a shit about what other countries did that actually worked.
So no, because universal health care wouldn't be advantageous to our capitalist overlords. Well, what I'm saying is that a 4-day work week is profitable. And eventually what is profitable will win out. But it has to be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt before they actually come around to believing it. Just like remote work. Trump and fucking Elon are off against remote work, but there's still plenty of fucking remote work. Way more remote work than there was 5 years ago.
I mean, they've already proven that UBI works too. And
we have not proven UBI works
on small scale.
I'm a huge UBI advocate. What I'm saying is we haven't proven it would work on a huge nationwide scale.
True.
Just like we haven't proven 4-day work week would work, but we have proven it'll work on
and those things could very much go hand in hand.
Exactly. And eventually enough private companies will switch to a 4-day work week that suddenly people are going to see their friends having fun on Friday and go, I want that. And there's going to be the political will for it. That's what I'm saying. It's inevitable that it will happen because profit mandates so. Assault weapons ban. I don't know where the fuck I want to put I want to hear you guys talk first.
Honestly, listen, I hate to say it.
America's not cool with
that. I'm putting it on. It's either nice to have or honestly not worth focusing on. I hate to say it, but it's like what you. I don't. Fuck it. I don't hate to say it. It's true. The will of the American people to ban assault weapons. I don't think it's not high. It's not. If it were, we'd see a lot more of it. And and also the assault weapons ban. I gotta be careful when I say shit like this, but it's true because the assault weapons ban. While obviously it would be good, it would help decrease the violence that's caused by it. But I mean, if you look up the number of deaths caused by these type of firearms, it's like in the grand scheme, it's minuscule. It is minuscule. The overwhelming gun violence deaths are going to be like suicides and stuff like that, or just like individuals with handguns and stuff. It's solving the problem is a lot bigger than the assault weapons ban because what's on the news are the mass shootings where 10 people die or 7 people die. Actually, not anymore. To get it to be on the news now, you need 40 people to die in a mass shooting because they're so common. But the assault weapons ban doesn't do enough to solve the big part of the gun problem. What do you think, Weiser?
I agree with you. I was going to say if there's on here a list of sensible gun laws, that definitely takes precedent, but basically whatever the Department of Transportation uses for licensing to driving a car, same with a weapon. You have to go through courses and classes and get certified and get those kinds of laws. I think would supersede a assault weapons ban in terms of effectiveness. If that's the goal. My question for you though, John, is this a platform by which we want to be winning and elected on, or just a general platform after we're elected?
So it's a platform
because that really changes how we think about it.
It does. So the way I'm thinking about this is that these are things that we want in the just like Project 2025, where there is boatloads of shit like the Office of Management and Budget that's very fucking vitally important to that, but they didn't run on that. They ran on.
So this is hidden agenda.
Yeah. So that's why I say it's a combination of the two. It's the headline policies. Those are the things that you're running on. Everything the A's are also probably it's going to be mentioned. Everything below that, it might be mentioned.
Because I would frame things really differently to win an election, but things that I would want to do would be different than that.
Yeah. This is Project Duplicity is what we're running on here.
You gotta have the nuance, Weiser. I think that I'm fine putting that in D. I agree with you guys. By the way, TJ, I just looked it up. There is a slim majority support for an assault weapons ban, but it's only 20% support of a handgun ban, which would be way more effective at saving lives. So,
not going to happen.
Never.
Bans are tough. Sensible laws.
Because bans. Yeah, I mean we've seen this. Well, we're running out of time. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway,
all right. Yeah, we'll keep going. Criminal justice reform, and this is one of those ones where we're not listening to any specific policies here. I'm saying general criminal justice reform. How important is this on our list of things that we are doing? Pick your favorite policy or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Oh, God. Criminal justice reform. I mean, it is kind of vague. There's a lot that I want to get done. I mean, because criminal justice reform goes from ending cash bail to abolishing prisons. I mean, you got a wide range there of what that means.
To even changing how a president can be charged or not charged, right?
Well, yeah. God, I don't know. I put it on nice to have. To have just because of the complexities of it and like what is all involved there. There's a lot that I mean, the fact that we are the most carceral state in our country in the world is wild. It definitely needs to take place. But as far as like political will and priority, I would put it pretty average.
I agree. I'm fine with that.
I'm glad you said that so the two white guys didn't have to. Yeah, I kind of agree with it. And I do think there are some things within criminal justice reform that like get there, but in terms of the whole, like, let's retool the whole system, I think you're right.
It's not a high priority.
Needed to expend. It's not as high priority as others.
Especially coming out of what we'd be coming out of.
Yeah.
A lot of repair. So,
housing. And also kind of general, but build a fuck ton of housing and bring down housing prices. The general gist here. To me, that's a headline policy. That's something that you can run on and be very successful with.
Yeah, I'd say it's S to A, somewhere in there. Just because that people are behind that because everyone struggles with it. It's not getting better.
Yeah.
Though it didn't work for Kamala.
No,
talked about it a lot.
But I feel like that is a. She lost, but that doesn't mean it was because of that. Like, I think
no, that's true. There's
a
million factors for that, but I don't know how much it resonated with people in terms of they're like, I like that she's talking about housing. I mean, for some people it did, but
okay.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you also asking?
No, yeah, I like it too. I was laughing at the last segment here where you said with the criminal justice reform, and now it's gonna be later. Wiseacre, you said something about, especially with what's going on now. We'll put the Republicans in jail, then do criminal justice reform, which I thought was kind of funny. I don't know where you got that. That was pretty good. Yeah, the housing stuff, focusing on the cost of housing and the cost of rent, I think it's really important. The marketing in it would be hard. Like, I honestly, because it's hard to tell people, well, here's how I'm going to make your rent or your mortgage or the overall cost of your house cheaper without really, am I getting too nuanced on this? Upsetting how capitalism works and everything. And I don't know.
What government can do to control that.
Exactly. Like I'd put it in A just because I don't exactly know how they message this in reality.
Yeah, so I think, and I'll add this next one into this discussion, because here I have building more public transportation infrastructure. And I think that generally speaking, build baby build is a tagline to get behind. Build more housing, build more public transportation, build better roads, build better cities.
Like infrastructure. Yeah.
I think that these two things go together like peanut butter and jelly. And it also is so impactful to everyday life that once these things get built, once you can build them, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because they're going to work. They're going to make people's lives undeniably better, similar to the New Deal, and build a coalition that will last for decades because of it. I think that a building platform will work, and I think they're both S-tier policies.
Eisenhower was the highway system, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I totally get behind that. I mean, we tried to do that. Biden tried to do this. What the whole infrastructure deal was about was doing build, baby, build, and it worked. It's just that it doesn't happen fast enough for people to feel like it did anything. Like, why weren't all the roads built in a week? Like, Jesus Christ, calm down.
That's actually something I was going to bring up. Wiser, you talked about it, and yeah, Eisenhower was sold on the interstate highway system. And the funny thing about that is that Eisenhower wasn't really like the Autobahn is where people got their inspiration from him when they saw it in Germany. It's like, oh, it's pretty good. And Eisenhower wasn't sure about it until they could sell it to him as like a military asset. That like there's some law that like within every so many miles of the interstate, they need 1 mile or whatever. That's however long it would take for a plane to land. So like, oh, we can actually land planes on the interstate if we absolutely had to. He's like, okay, sure, yeah, this sounds great and everything, but I was going to talk about the speed in which the projects were done, because that is really important. It is like, I wish I could remember what the project was that Biden signed with the infrastructure thing. And it hadn't, he signed it, and 3 years later, nothing had happened with it yet. That actually is a problem. That there is.
A lot of it was the electrical chargers took a long time to happen.
Oh, okay. I know what the problem was and everything like that. Cause I remember like in my old unit in North Carolina, we had this parking lot that was being built. And it took 6 months for them to put this parking lot together. Yep. And I remember looking up how long it took the Empire State to be built. And let me see if I can find out exactly how long it took for the Empire State. 1 year. The Empire State Building was built in 1 fucking year. And it took 6 months to build a park. Now I know there's more regulations and there's more checks and stuff, more safety stuff. I got it. However,
it's also manpower. How much money do you have to throw at the manpower to get it done quickly?
And that was my second point. The purpose is that this provides jobs. Like it provides lots of jobs, and it needs to be staffed, and that's going to help build.
And
your
you need to incentivize
too.
States to take it, because they're all like that happened with the infrastructure deal. States just held on to the money and like, no, I don't like Biden, so I'm not going to use it.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that's why you do, like an interstate system. You just build, and you say,
employ people and build.
Meet me in court. I'm gonna build it, and by the time this lawsuit is over, it's gonna be almost done being built. Like that's what you just gotta fucking do, and I think it works. Josh Shapiro, and I know a lot of people on the left don't like Josh Shapiro because of his stance on Israel, and that's perfectly reasonable.
And he killed a guy, right?
He may have allegedly, but he has the undying love of Pennsylvania, mostly because, and I'm telling you, like this completely changed
the collapse.
We had a giant explosion on I-76, like basically like one of the most important bottleneck roads in Philadelphia, right? And when it happened, I was like, "Fuck, this is going to ruin my life. This is going to like." And he got it fixed in like 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yep.
It was insane. And like, I don't care he can kill another guy. I don't care if he fixes those. I don't give a shit. And like, I'm exaggerating here, but that's real. Like, it's very real. It's impossible to deny.
It's very easy to do it quickly. I'm sure it's a Scandinavian country. They have this whole road building, huge ass robot thing that can build like 10 miles in a day or something like it's just like this. Like, we could do that. We just lack, like you said, we lack the will to really get behind it, which would need we would need a cheerleader leader, someone who is.
And that's the problem with Biden's infrastructure bill. It was complicated. I don't see what it did.
And he wasn't out there talking about it.
I literally don't know. I'm sure there's things that have improved my life about it, and I do not know.
You don't know.
I pay attention to this shit.
Well,
he didn't put his name on it. No.
Well, yeah. First, the name was so shitty. Build Back Better. I remember I thought Build Back Better was an awful name, and then so I was like, oh, it's a reference to this something from like World War II. I was like, I don't care. It still sounds like garbage. I always hated that name. And the cheerleading's important, and most important is what you said, John. Like, fuck you. I'll see you in court. I'm doing it anyway. We actually need that, and you know what? And when it happens, the people will be grateful. They'll be like, oh, finally, like we have like my kids don't have to walk across a busy intersection to go to school since we have a bridge over for them.
I mean, let's be honest. That's why people voted for Trump. That's a lot of like, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
We're like, thank God, someone's just going to do something.
Yes, people like when you're a fighter. Like, they like it. Like, they really appreciate the fact that and this is something we complain with Biden all the time. I always said that. But my example I always use is black unemployment. If you ask your average American when was black unemployment as lowest, they're going to say under Donald Trump. Because the second it hit its lowest point, he was on TV once a week bragging about the fact that he had the lowest unemployment for black people ever. It fell lower under Biden. I never heard a fucking word. I never heard a word about it from Joe Biden. And I was like, why isn't he doing this? And then during the debate, I was like, okay, well, that's why. That's why.
He's old.
That's
old.
why.
He had a fight like 30 years ago. He would have been perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
a very good point. He's a president made for radio, guys. All right. So next we have immigration reform. And again, this is going to be a pick your poison. I'm not going to give a specific, I'm an open borders guy, but I'm not going to say open borders, but I mean meaningful immigration reform with a clear pathway to citizenship. However you want to accomplish that. Where do we put that?
Personally, I'd rank it high, but politically, I am still reeling from that poll I saw about a week before the election. Ooh. That 54% of Americans favored mass deportation. Not 50% of Americans favored a strong border, or 50% of Americans favored, more judges for a no, mass deportation. So horrific, like horrendous shit. So look, I think that it's necessary. It needs to happen. But as far as like what I would push for it, I'm putting it on borderline. Yeah, borderline. I'll put it
that's
there,
also where I would put it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
borderline. Yep.
There where it's very important.
Borderline.
It's very important, but the mountain to cross is also very high.
Yeah.
And we also don't have anything in B, so yeah. Campaign finance reform.
Oh yes.
Again, pick your poison, but general campaign overturning Citizens United.
All the way yes.
All the way up. All the way up.
I was going to say that's almost a requirement to any of these things getting done, because you're going to have fucking lobbyists get in the way of any progress, being like, 4-day work week, that's going to hit your bottom line, Mr. Billionaire.
I know. It's like, I would love to hear the Republicans argue against taking money out of politics. I'd love to hear that. Please tell me why lobbyists are fucking necessary. Well, why is this a necessary function of our government? It needs to go. And I think that's a message that could relate to your average Republican, even your the reddest Trump supporters. Like, yeah, let's not have billionaires financing this shit. Except Elon Musk, of course, they'd love that. But outside of, he's a unique case. But just like business interests in general, not getting involved in politics, I think you could get a lot of support on that.
I think you need to recategorize lobbyists too. Like, I have had instances with clients where a lobbyist is helpful because they don't know how to get a law introduced. Who do you talk to? How do you write it? What do you have to put in it? How does it get to the right people? Is there certain that like lobbyists can help with that because they do understand it, but that's about it. That's I think their limitation should be in terms of helping the citizens or a business or a nonprofit or whatever get something in front of politicians as legislation, and that's where it should stop.
The connection needs to be severed, but the expertise should be available.
Correct. Yes. Wiseacre, after I got in the military, I joined the same place I'm working now, a community action organization in Indiana, and Community Action Poverty Institute. And I went to the Indiana General Assembly. I was an intern there, and I said, lobbyists, they actually do hang out in the lobby. Like the name is accurate. They just hang out waiting for the representatives to show up.
Is that why they're called lobbyists?
They really do.
There's a better reason than that.
They hang out in the lobby. That's exactly what they do. They just wait outside the doors and then swarm them when the session ends. But we had a lobbyist. And when I would talk about my job sometimes, people say, our lobbyist, like, it's not like that though. Like our lobbyist is a good lobbyist. Like our lobbyist is like helping to craft policies to help poor people and shit. Like they're not, working for Exxon
like a
or anything.
Attorney. It's like, but one of the good ones.
One of the good ones. Yeah, exactly.
You have to bound them, and then they're thinking, but it's a requirement to change this. Fucking Citizens United.
Yeah, and as TJ said, the political will is there. The only reason that it doesn't actually happen now is because the Democratic politicians don't have the will to do it because they don't want to. But if you got a critical mass of them to do it, it would be very successful. So I'm going to put this one. This is just higher education. Free college, free tertiary education is what I really think it should be. / student loan forgiveness. Where do we put this?
I like the name free tertiary education. That's really good. You'd lose all the Republicans with the word tertiary, but it's a good because I would talk to people about this, and I'd always trap them when Bernie Sanders put up his free college thing, and they said, "Well, I'm against it," and I say, and they'd always say the same thing. Well, if he supported free trade schools, I'd be for it. I thought it's good news. He does. It's actually in the bill that trade schools are on the, and they still didn't. They were lying, of course, but I like it. I don't know how much it would catch on. Someone say B? That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was going to say too. B. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's funny because I always like to tell people, I'm like, so you're for public education all the way through for free. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then once you get to college, nope, no more. Nope. Can't do that. I'm like, that's a weird line to put.
I would say, isn't it strange how the way you think it just should be is the way it's always been your whole life? Isn't it a weird coincidence that the rest of education being free, that's just normal. But the thing that hasn't been free your whole life, that would be weird.
Use that argument while you can, folks, because I think very quickly Republicans are going to be against that too. They're going to be against free education for kids anyway. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. That well, speaking of which, our next one, free school lunch. I think that this is what was that?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think this is a other must-have. I don't think it's important enough to be a headline policy, but I think that it's a very easy thing to gather political will behind.
Easy win. Should be an easy win.
It's an easy win that is also pretty beneficial, even if it's not like a Overturn of Citizens United level thing.
Get Tim Walz out there talking about it.
Yeah. The real sickos will say they're against free school lunch, but I don't think that's your average person. So even if it's your average Republican, like your average like non-political person will be like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense if you would feed my kid. I think we should do it too with healthcare. That if we want to sneak healthcare in nationwide, say, hey, free healthcare for children. I think
that's really smart, TJ. I don't know why I've never thought of that.
I don't know why
we try to take big bites rather than little nibbles.
Yeah, because then when people get used to that hey, their kids are getting free healthcare and everything, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to everybody getting it. Like I don't know, it's kind of like they already have it for seniors. Have it for kids. And then think about
we don't do enough like Republicans do, which is they don't take huge swings trying to hit home runs every time. They're hunting. They're sack flying. We need to start doing that. That's a great idea to be like, where can we give away free healthcare in a small way so that people start to see its benefit? Yeah. And then you do another one.
And make them stand in front of the American people and say, no, fuck that. Kids don't get free healthcare.
Parents can't afford it. They deserve to die.
Make them say it. Make the son of a bitches say it. Yeah,
exactly.
Jay, of all of our time doing this show, that might be the best idea you've ever had. Because that works. I would be flabbergasted if something like that didn't work. Attempted. Yeah. All right. So next up, raising the minimum wage. Very interesting one in my book. Generally large support. It does make fucking sense.
Yeah.
It's been the way.
You mean the federal minimum wage?
Raise the federal minimum wage, correct?
Yeah.
Where would you put that in this list? Because I don't really know where I put it in terms of priority.
I think most people think it already has been raised, quite honestly.
No, yeah, it's like I'm putting it in the nice to have category. Honestly, because I don't know if you're going to get a lot of people who care that much about it. I really don't. Because what matters to them more is their state minimum wage. The federal minimum wage doesn't really matter to them all that much. Their state matters a hell of a lot more. And
states have definitely a change too. Like I think that's why most people would think like the minimum wage is like $12. Like
they probably yeah. Also, like we need to. While we're at this, can we retire the $15 minimum wage thing? Because I feel like we've been saying this for 10 years now. It needs to be higher now. Like if we want to be
like 25 to 30.
Yeah, it's gotta be a lot higher. By the time we get the 15, it won't matter anymore. So but for a federal policy, I would put it in the nice to have. It wouldn't be one of my flagship ones.
My stump on minimum wage is I think it's actually not a very effective economic policy, and there's better ways to accomplish the goals of minimum wage. But whatever it is, I just need it to be tied to inflation. Like whatever the next time you set the minimum wage, it needs to be a value, not a dollar number. Because that's the dumbest thing in the world. All right, universal health care. That's S tier for me. It might be number one.
Come on,
because it's just such an easy thing to fight for. Like TJ, and actually, now that TJ said the kids thing, that's probably the way to do it.
Easy win, right? They're not going to do it. It's an easy win. I guarantee they're not going to do it. Yeah.
Yes. But any objections here? I feel like we're all pretty much in agreement on that.
Absolutely.
Although I'm now noticing I have two images that both say universal health care. So my bad. So this one's just he's gonna just relax there. But last one is a wealth tax. And we can put this on, kind of again, pick your poison here, but tax the billionaires, tax the rich.
I mean,
how important is this to Project 2025? Does it have political will? Should it be a driver, or should it just be a thing that we definitely need to do to accomplish our other goals, but isn't necessarily something we are campaigning on?
It really depends on how people are going to react to this next 4 years.
That's a very good nuanced take there.
Because if people start to realize that Elon Musk is the shithead that he is, it's S tier. People are going to be like, fuck these guys. Because after they're given them more tax breaks again, and inflation starts to rise, unemployment starts to rise, like it will become more S tier. I mean, it's what's going to happen. It's just going to take a while for it to happen and for people to realize that's what's happening. But it's S or A for me, one or the two, I think.
I'd put it in A. Like I think it'd be really beneficial, but like for some reason, there's still like this worship of the upper class that still exists in the United States, and that we can make people like I think it's quite easy enough to make people think that, hey, your boss or billionaires or the 1% don't have your interest in mind, that your desires do not converge in any way. Like, okay, and they're trying to fuck you over. They get that. But for some reason, the next step of therefore we need to take money from them, that's hard. People are like, oh no,
it's got to be. We've got to phrase it differently. We just have to phrase it differently.
I don't know. Yeah, that'd be a harder sell, but yeah.
And we also don't ever talk about how like a 90% tax on billionaires isn't their entire income being 90%. No. It's when they hit a number and go over it. That is the 90%. Like if they're making $500 million a year. After that much, it's 90% of that amount is taxed 90%. Like people don't really understand that because it's very confusing.
Well, I don't think John's talking about marginal tax. You're talking about like property, right, John? Is that what you're talking about?
This is a pick your poison.
Okay. Oh, never mind.
Raise taxes on the rich in some way. Tax policy is very complicated. There's about 80 million ways to do this. We don't have time to discuss every one. Yeah. In general, raising taxes on the rich, whether it's a wealth tax, whether it's marginal tax rates, whether it's whatever. That's what we're talking about here.
I want to pull up Kyle said, abolish the minimum wage and give power back to the unions. Kyle, I'm all for it. Like, if you guys ever get in an argument with a libertarian and talk about why the minimum wage should go up, libertarians like to say, well, those countries you guys always try to emulate, like, the Nordic countries, they have no minimum wage. And they're right. They don't. But they also have like a 70% union that we have 10, right? So if you have countries that are 70% union workforce, those 30% have to compete with them, and the wages are going to be pretty high. Yeah. So if you're
working in a socialistic economy, where that's what it's going to benefit having no minimum wage. We're not. We're an exploitative economy. Therefore, getting rid of a minimum wage just means that capitalists are going to be like, "Oh, cool, I can exploit everyone now."
This is Lady Lavender says it's because they think of themselves as billionaires. They want to be them. This is now. I know what you're saying, Lady Lavender. I agree that. It's not that they believe they'll be billionaires one day, but they do sympathize with the boss. Like every time you bring something up about how, hey, we want to tax, business owners, or we want to, make sure that rich people and captains of industry pay more into the system. They don't think of themselves as the workers like they are. They think of themselves, well, what if I was the owner? It's weird. That's why it's kind of hard that we still have that fucking peasant brain.
Because we don't explain it to people right. What I like to do is let's say that you have $10 and I'm going to ask you to give me $2. That's a pretty significant amount being taken away from you. Now, let's say that you have $1,000, but I'm also only going to ask you to give me $2. Who is it hurting more? Like it's that simple. We just don't ever explain it that way, but that's what's happening.
I think that when it comes to these things, it is a very much binary switch, and we are teetering on the edge. Because I think bloodlust is a very, very strong motivator, especially when it comes to political will. And bloodlust is high, and we just need the bloodlust to stop focusing on, immigrants and DEI. I know we've been saying this for years, but the bloodlust is fucking there.
Yeah,
it's not that hard to just tip it over to those fucking rich people. Everyone hates
they're terrified of.
As well, exactly. And, the guillotines aren't that far away right now is all I'm saying. All right, guys. I was kind
of thinking that Super Mario would have opened that up a little bit.
I think he did. And I think that we aren't quite ready for it yet. But
no, it has to happen a couple more times somewhere.
Wait until the economy collapses, Wiseacre, is all I'm saying. I think we might see a little bit more political violence when
French Revolution.
Some things get fucked up and people have nothing better to do. But anyway, that's our show, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are watching this video, then I hope you are subscribed to this channel. And if you are not, then guillotine for you. If you do enjoy this show, please, Wiseacre, where can people find you if they liked what you had to say today?
I'm on TikTok. Who knows what account it will be for what, but my main account is Wiseacre Design 2. I'm also on YouTube, which I'm trying to build an audience there as well. I'm Wiseacre Design over there. And I'm on Blue Sky as at wiseacre.me.
Thanks so much, Wiseacre. Be sure to check out his stuff, folks. And also be sure to visit Scott's Burgers in Bixby, Oklahoma, where you can see their patented guillotine pickle slicer. Come see it, folks. We appreciate it. Catch you later.